This is absolutely crazy. Bags. Aaron. Bags. Getting ready. Here we go.
What's happening? Welcome to Seattle. The time is 8:59. We're here! It's happening! So I'm glad that y'all kind of did a mix of both, and we're having an opportunity to see her in a completely kind of new way.
All the time and to describe, certain things. But I love thinking about it that way.
But there's also this whole other set of people, these concept artists who are contributing to this game and who are working behind the scenes. So we're done.
Yeah, outside the studio. What a
That
rush.
That was insane. It was amazing.
Yeah. Thanks everyone who watched.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm still speechless and processing what just happened.
All right, we gotta go find our daughter.
Bye.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Aw, that was a good trip.
Yeah, thanks everyone for allowing us to relive that a little bit. We shot videos the whole way up and we got back and I was like, oh, let's make a little thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So everybody can kind of see behind the scenes a little
Yeah.
bit.
So it felt like a fitting way to start this episode because we're going to be talking about a lot this week, and most of it, if not all of it, was announced during Lorecast. So it's kind of a fun way to kind of launch this show this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was, in hindsight, Liam, your favorite part of our trip to Seattle?
I mean, I'll be honest. I just meeting people.
Yeah.
I love Lorecast itself, but getting to meet the people behind the team and hang out with them and spend some time with some of those folks is just fantastic. So I think that was it. Oddly enough, the most fun part for me wasn't the during the show; it was the before and the after part of the show.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, what about you?
For me, the show was a huge part of it. But honestly, so for those of you who don't know, we actually used to live in the Seattle area. And so we got to take the opportunity being up there to see a lot of our old friends. A lot of people got to meet this little one, which was really special that it just made the trip even that much more incredible because we got to do this amazing thing with Ravensburger. We got to see a ton of our friends and it was just the absolute perfect week. So
yeah,
it was great. It was, I still kind of can't believe that happened.
That's true. It was great. So if you're watching Ravensburger, thank you.
Yes. Thank
that
you
was a
so
treat.
much.
And for anybody who watched Lorecast, thanks for watching.
Yeah.
We know you didn't watch for us, but it was fun hanging out with you all for a bit. So, all right. So, hey, thank you. Welcome all to our weekly show. If you're new here, this is our weekly Let's Talk Lorcana show, where for an hour-ish, this week a little longer, we talk about all things Lorcana, particularly breaking news and other stuff and art, and and we hang out and have a good time. But I know, well, before I get to the guests, I want to outline the show real quick. We've got a lot of guests coming on this week. We're going to phase them in throughout the show. I know some of you are here. Oh, okay.
I feel like I'm off.
I know some of you all are here to see George Machado, PPG. He's going to come on in the last 30 minutes. So we're going to have a great discussion beforehand. Then George will come in near the end. So we'll get to talk to him about PPG and Lorcana Challenge. So excited for that. But until then, and throughout the show, feel free to ask questions in the chat of our guests. We're happy to get to them. But let's get our guests in here, because we know that most of the time you all aren't here for us. You're here for the people that we bring on, which is why we bring people on. Otherwise, nobody would watch our show.
Know. We're like, nah, semi-entertaining, but the guests are great.
That's true. I do want to start by bringing in some of our returning guests, friends of the show. They've been here many times before. I'm going to bring them both at the same time because they're kind of a package deal with their content.
Dynamic
I feel like
duo.
Yeah, but I'm going to do Becky and Katie.
Hello.
Hi. Hey.
Becky and Katie from Live Laugh Lorcana, one of our favorite podcasts. We'll get the link to the Discord. I think the best way to follow you all is to jump into your Discord server and then connect with you there and then go to your stuff. So we'll get that link in there. But how are you all doing? How was this week?
Fantastic. Exciting. Probably not as exciting as yours, but pretty good.
I don't know. I mean, I think we're all super excited to see all the news.
All the reveals. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like y'all had, I definitely want to, like, when they do Lorecast again, definitely want to hang out in the commentary. I'm excited to hang out in like on the commentary side of things.
Yeah.
So, because y'all's commentary was great, like John T. Brandon, like everybody over at B Squared. It just, y'all had great discussions, because we most definitely watched it back again to watch y'all's opinions on everything that happened. So
that is true.
Aww, that's so sweet. Thank you.
True.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun watching. I don't know. Although watching ourselves is awkward. I kind of like tuned out when we spoke and then tuned in when you all spoke. But anyway.
Well, we actually did watch Lorecast for you guys, so
yeah, you were why.
Well, thank you. You're the only ones. Also, before we bring in our next guest, I do owe you all a thank you. We just received this today. You all sent, I know what you all know what you sent, but for everybody watching, the foil bestow a gift that you all pulled, because this was our card reveal this set. And so it means a lot that you thought of us when you pulled it, and then some amazing stickers. So we're super excited. So thank you.
Sure.
This is a treat. I literally opened it like an hour before the stream started, and I was like,
yeah, the mailman just came.
I could text them and thank them, or I could thank them in person in front of everybody watching.
I didn't even know we did that. Katie did that. We're so thoughtful.
Both of you are.
I feel the same way often in this relationship. I'm like, yeah, we are. You're welcome.
You're welcome. Anyway, all right. So really, we'll bring our next guest in. Really excited. Brand new to the channel. She is a Lorcana content creator, super fan, commentator. Has a lot of experience, commentating esports and other card games. So, and has jumped into Lorcana, I think, with both feet. And we're really excited to welcome to the stream Thea Boyson.
Hey guys. Thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate it. This is such a lovely vibe. Honestly, it's very wholesome.
We super appreciate it. Thanks for making the time to join us. Super excited to hear about your thoughts on this week's news. I will, for our guests, I do want to highlight, if you want to follow Thea, you can follow her. She has 2 Twitter handles, which most of your Lorcana content is on Thea Beastie, and then your other Twitter handle at Thea Boyson. So for anybody watching, you can follow Thea there.
Thanks a bunch. Yeah, I mean, when Lorcana came out, I was like, I need a dedicated Twitter channel to this, because I was posting very random like cards and stuff, and people who followed me for other reasons had zero idea what I was talking about. So just started to like throttle them all the way to my other accounts, and now I just endlessly post stuff about cards. So I don't have to feel guilty anymore, essentially.
I think it's great. Bring them all in to to
Yeah.
the world of Lorcana.
You gotta
Yes.
hook them in.
Googly Goomer's trying to kick me out of the stream. So I can't. I'm blocked in, unfortunately, is the way our studio's set up. So anyway, I thought I'd start out just opening it up and asking you all, like, let's just start with Lorecast. Like, as a concept, I think everybody tuned in. Theo, we saw you in the chat. Katie and Becky, I know you were, reacting live. What do you all think, like, as an idea?
I love it. I think it was an awesome idea. I mean, like a way to like directly interact with the community. That's always a very healthy sign of a card game. So, I mean, the one I was doing before I died. Now that I think, they did do less of those, and then they died. So maybe it's correlated. But it's really cool that you were doing it live. I thought it was going to be pre-recorded, so you were answering questions as they were being asked by the community, and I think that was really helpful.
And stressful.
Yeah.
You didn't seem stressed.
It was.
Well, Rochelle was carrying like 95% of the weight for the team. So.
That is true. That is true.
She did an amazing job.
For
But
sure.
yeah. What about you, Katie, Becky? What did y'all think about Lorecast as a concept?
It blew my mind. Well, because previously, in the official Discord, they kind of like had like their main stage stuff, but this was just such another level. It was so exciting. The production value was like so much higher than I thought it would be, and it was just so much fun. And I think it was. I mean, what do I know? But a rousing success. I hope this is how they're going to be doing things in the future because it was fantastic.
Yeah, and it exceeded all of my wildest expectations. So there was so much information, like for 2 hours of straight information and like explanation that I wasn't expecting. Like with the 2-game format, they got into like testing they had done that was under NDA, like details I never thought I would get, we got, and it was awesome.
I agree. I'm like trying to mute and unmute as my baby's crying, but I agree. Like I told this. I forget who I told this story to. I've told this like 18 people, but I'm going to tell it again here. Like I had for the longest time a PlayStation. I was a PlayStation, Nintendo. Those are my favorite things. And then I got one day. I was like, I got to see what this Xbox thing is about, just to experience it. So I bought an Xbox 360. And have I told this story on the stream yet? Okay. All right. I'm going to say it. So I got the Xbox and I logged in and I thought it was great. And I latched onto Xbox for like a year, but it's because of one reason. Is because at the time Xbox had a Xbox I forget what it was called, but it was a production unit that did shows and that connected with fans, and they did live shows. They did 1 versus 100 live, and the whole setup on the dashboard whenever they did those, it felt like you were part of a community. And then in 2012 they shut that division down, and ever since then I went back to PlayStation. I was like, this is not the same anymore. And so I really believe that like this in-person, connection with fans matters. I don't know. So I was excited to see it.
Yeah. And to see it done for a card game, I think is like really cool.
Yeah.
And different.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. And the production value is through the roof. I do have a viewer question. We're going to pretend I was on the right slide to start, but on the note, Scott Oliver, one of our longtime viewers, asked on Twitter prior to the show, with the start of Lorecast, do you think this will be used to discuss each new set only, or could it be monthly, bi-monthly, communication flowing? I have an idea of what I'd like to see, but I thought I'd ask, you all how you'd like to see them use this Lorecast format.
Do you guys want to?
I'll just say I'd like to see it maybe monthly. But like I know like that 2-hour block of information isn't going to be as long when we're doing it monthly, but that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure not. I would love to see like a big beautiful thing like we got this time for every new set. But there's just like so much potential for that channel, like so much they could do on, question and answer stuff, streaming events, things like that. Like I'm really, really excited to see what they do with it.
For sure. And even just like one place where we can have our info, right? Because right now it's like scattered all over. You got to like play investigator to find it. Like having something like that, answering all the questions everybody has, like in one solid space, I feel like that's the easiest way to do it. Also, it helps people remember that it's a real person behind like Ravensburger, etc. I mean, to me, that's such a big thing. It's like You know, before you get your pitchforks and stuff out, like remember who you're talking to and like all the cool people making it happen.
For sure. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I almost wrote this really long post similar to that a few days ago, and I didn't. So I'm so glad you said that, because I think you're right. Like companies, we often think of them as these faceless, just names, these brands, you know, and every single decision, we forget that every single decision that the company makes, from the marketing to the product line to everything else, is a decision that somebody makes, and those people are out there and they're watching and they're, you know, seeing people's reactions, and I don't know. And yeah, so to remember that the Lorcana team, you know, that these are the people that we're talking about when we criticize or have comments or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think it's important to remember. So
For sure.
I don't know, but I think like if I'd love to do like I like the monthly idea, but maybe bridge the gap. I think somebody said that there's so much potential in the channel. Maybe bridge the gap and have like a different show monthly, like a shorter show that's like, I don't know, Rochelle's notes, you know, and it's like a half-hour thing of Rochelle giving us, you know, the scoop, and then like there's a huge production at the studio like every so often. I don't know.
I like that. I have like a dedicated day for it. Like, I know every Friday is too much. Sure. Well, you don't know. Like, maybe the way that they revealed cards back in the last set, you know, was like a whole like weekly thing. Like having like a Friday everybody looks forward to, like 7 p.m. Everybody tunes in for a quick update. Maybe it's 10 minutes long. You know, like I feel like that's a cool community event where everybody like there were what 3,000 or something people watching more.
Yeah.
Like that surprised me. Like it shouldn't have, but the fact that all those people managed to find the info and go on Twitch and watch it at the same time, that surprised me. It's a good thing for sure.
Yeah, 1,000%.
It's my baby noises. So I agree, because I forget sometimes, you know, certain of us are used to navigating the interwebs, and when people say Twitch, we're like, yeah, okay, we'll go over to Twitch. But you know, on Facebook and stuff, as we tried to market it, you know, the number of people that were like, how do I find Twitch, was amazing. So like that 4,000 people probably, you know, if this was on multiple platforms, would have been, you know, much bigger.
For sure.
YouTube. That's my only constructive criticism thus far, is repost it on YouTube. That's how you get a lot of views, and that's how you market the game. But I understand doing it on Twitch for now, and making the video accessible on Twitch, which I do all the time. It disappears unless sometimes you have to literally click make it publish the video on Twitch so they can watch it after. I think that would be cool. But luckily we had like reaction channels and stuff, and I assume you guys kept your content on somewhere where people can see it.
Mm-hmm.
So we could find the information afterwards, which is awesome.
Right. Yeah. That's a big point. I'm hoping that becomes a thing. That would be very, very, very nice.
Yeah.
They said the recording would be up eventually.
Yeah, I think there's some checks they have to do, and so I hope it gets up sooner rather than later, because you're right. Like, so immediately afterwards, everybody asking for the video, and without the reaction videos like yours and Brandon's, I don't know that we'd be able to see it. So it's kind of cool. I do. So Lorecast was great. We got a lot of news out of it, and I do want to ask. There's so much we could talk about, but I really want to ask about this first, because probably one of the things I'm most excited for. What do y'all think about this? What do you think about Illumineer's quest?
I love it. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited for it.
One of my New Year's resolutions was to get my parents to play, and this is how I'm going to do it, because I feel like that'll be like a really easier way to ease them into like, oh, we're playing this game together and we're going to work through your turn together. So
it's awesome. It's really cool. Having different, I think it's another way to bring a more casual base into the game as well. Like, you don't have to buy every single card of every single set, and 5 years from now, just buy this game for the family on Christmas, and they can play it, see what they think of it, and that's how you sort of get them addicted.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. No, I was so excited to see this. I've always been more kind of drawn to co-op games, so I think this is going to be a ton of fun. I love the option to even playing it by yourself if you want to, 1 to 4 players. I think it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Yeah. Sorry, I got to get to these comments. Yeah, I mean, you all saw what I thought. Great idea. It reminds me of the World of Warcraft like raid decks that they used to have. And I know those got, people loved those back when that game was alive. So maybe they didn't love it enough to save the game. But no, this is great. To what all you said, like being able to teach people how to play using this, like to have family game nights, to be able to bring people in, even build custom decks and to sit down to win together, to lose together, like it's huge. And I love that this is something we'll hopefully see more of. So, this time we're fighting Ursula, and then in a few sets when we get a new story arc, we'll get somebody else. I have a viewer question about that in a second, but I did want to go over here though, because we saw some of this up front. And we kind of talked about it in Lorecast, but I don't know that we did it justice. These are some of the products coming in the deck, and I figured out, halfway through the Lorecast stream that the tentacle ink things were unique to the set, but they're unique to this product, I believe. So the decks that are built for this product have this symbol on them, and so they're playable, outside, off on the left, because you all can't see my cursor. And then, so they're playable, outside the box, but that kind of indicates they came from this and the battle with Ursula. And then on the right, this is a card that comes from Ursula's like deck, like her minion deck, which is, I mean, they're not playable outside this game, but man, they look cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. I don't even feel like I had seen this Captain Hook before, but from the minion deck.
What blows my mind too is this means they created like, again, all new art for these minions. This whole deck of like brand new characters essentially that they invested in art to bring this game to life. Because they could have relied on other artwork that they'd already invested in and just built decks for Ursula with those. And I don't know, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, I'm super psyched. So we did have a question on this, kind of a fun one that I thought I'd grab. From Trey at Get 'em Games on Twitter, asked, with the Illumineer's quest, what other PvE scenarios we'd like to see? He suggested Illumineers and Jack Skeleton trying to protect, the lore from Oogie Boogie. Is there another set we could see? I don't know. You'd all like to see?
Oh, that's a really fun question. Trying to think who like the big baddies are. I mean, really any villain would be so much fun. Like, I saw a comment Lever made about how this kind of like envelops us more in the story with this particular product. And so I'm very excited about that. I think when, because it seems like they're kind of condensing, like this is the chapter, the 4 of the year, the 4 sets. And so I'm excited to see what happens next. I would love to see an Oogie Boogie giant. Like that would be incredible if the story's wrapped around that.
I never focus on the villains in Disney movies. Like when you asked that question, I realized I suppressed all of them.
Too traumatic.
As a child, I'm focusing on the heroes,
Yeah,
I'm not thinking of Scar or like Gorilla Devil. I'm thinking of the puppies, and I just thought you need a 101 Dalmatians box, and you take down the baddies, and the puppies will need to like we need that next, I think, is what I'm saying. I predicted there would be a 99 Dalmatians at some point in this game. I just didn't think it would come out so quickly. And now we have them in set 3, so we should build on that. That's my favorite movie, so I'm very biased in this regard.
I love that. You should have written that down.
I'm sure we could find the recording somewhere, maybe.
Yeah, my first thought was actually Kingdom Hearts, which I know we won't get, but everyone always wants to see Kingdom Hearts in this game, and fighting like the Heartless would be like really fun.
Would be so cool for a product like this, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, lots of
Jafar also a great pick.
Poacher from Rescuers Down. That's an interesting one. I do like the Dalmatians one because I don't know. With all the Dalmatians, right? There's so many characters. Like you could have multiple puppy decks even. Like, I don't know. I think it's a fun idea.
Yeah,
for sure.
Give them all a name. Just you know, it's still official Disney lore. I mean, we don't know
Right.
each one's name, do we? I mean, unless there's some wiki page out there, it probably exists by now.
That's true. John
I don't know.
Googling.
John knows how many are named. I think he did a video on this. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I like the PvEs just a lot. Any way that you can, like, the more game modes that we have, the more ways to introduce people to game, the more ways to play, like, the better. And I don't know. I can even see people, eventually, I'm sure, like, a lot of content creators out there even are going to, like, invent their own ways to play, PvE, or create their own modes once they see how this game functions. And then the other thing I love is, in crafting, because the way they talked about it, I mean, there's 2 decks that come in it, and you can play more than 2-player, and you can bring your own deck to it. They just provide, a few that you can use, and you can modify those decks. So I'm really excited to start to craft decks for this specific scenario, and bringing in, because it's a whole other type of, like, theory crafting. And then all the cards that are good in, like, a team format that are not great normally, Coconut Basket, or Shield of Virtue. There's all sorts of fun stuff.
For sure. Which is going to become overwhelming for me because I already really struggle to put together a decent multiplayer deck at home. So we'll see.
Yeah, I struggle to put together a decent deck.
Period. Well, yeah, that goes without saying for me too.
Just steal one. It's fine.
There you go.
I also just have to say how awesome it is we got PvE already, because the game I came from is Flesh and Blood, and they have been promising PvE for years. Since like long before I started playing. And like seriously, when I showed this to everyone in the Flesh and Blood chat, they're like, "How did Lorcana get like PvE before us? It's awesome we got it this fast."
I dabbled in Flesh and Blood way back in the day, and I left after right after Monarch. Or no, Tales of Aria, like the 5th set. And I remember from back then, and so when you said, because I heard you say that recently, I think it was on the stream, like that Flesh and Blood, doesn't have a PvE, and I was blown away because I remember them saying that it was right around the corner back then. Yeah, no, it's great. I don't know, I'm just excited. So I want to ask, and we're going to bring in another guest in a few minutes to kind of delve into this some more. And I want to get his opinion, but before we do, there's another topic which kind of polarized the Lorcana community coming out of the stream, probably the most polarizing, second most polarizing, and it was the 2-game format. I'm going to call it, not best of 2.
You said it. Now it exists.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What do you all think of that format?
I mean, I have so I go in circles of like I like collecting like the best players, so I can like start practicing with them and like picking their brains because it's so cool finding these people all over the world who are just so good at what they do. A lot of them were extremely critical of this, which scares me, but I do not have the experience, to be frank, to criticize it. In my opinion, I struggle to finish best of 3 games in 50 minutes. And to me, that has always been a huge problem in tournaments. I will always have to go to turns, which happens after you aren't done with your 3rd game, 50 minutes is done. And then I lose out because my opponent has more lore or something. For me, I know a big problem is also going first is super beneficial currently as it stands in Lorcana, and having both players have 50% of winning based off of that format and enough time, there are a lot of benefits to this format. So unless we see something bad come from this that I can't foresee right now, I kind of like it. I'm not going with the majority decision here. Like there's other stuff like I can talk about, but this one I am a fan of, like, admittedly, personally.
Yeah, I love it for all the reasons you said, Thea. And also just because best of 3 leads to really weird behavior. Like if you win the first game, you have all the motivation in the world to slow play the rest of the round. And that just takes care of that, and it's fantastic. I keep sharing this story, but like my husband's been playing competitive Magic, competitive Pokemon for 15 years. Like after the Lorecast, he came into my office and he was like, "This is the most exciting news I've heard in competitive TCGs in a really long time, and I hope Magic and Pokemon are paying attention." So
I'm also on the 2-game Swiss. That's what I've been calling it. Hype train. One thing I really like about it is, which is also a criticism of it, is that it's more additive rather than like a win. Instead of going like 0-2 or 1-1, you're like, I got 1 point, and it's more of like you can make goals like, oh, in this tournament I got 6 points. I hope to hit 7 points next time and stuff like that. And I just feel like that's very psychologically fuzzy and delightful, and I like that because Lorcana is a game like that. You're not going against your opponent's life points or life or whatever. It's you're gaining lore for yourself, which I think is kind of nice.
You brought points up. I completely forgot about that. The point system, right, is also completely different. It's like winning both games gives you 3 points. I think that's what people are criticizing. They're criticizing that if you make it a very extreme deck, that you can like 2-0 a lot of meta decks, get 3 points, etc. But my pet peeve is intentional drawing. It just is. I don't like that at all. This eliminates that as well, and I'm a huge fan. Like, I don't like it when people just don't play, especially if you make it to a certain point. Like, I do think the top cuts still best of 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so technically you can still intentionally draw at the high level, I guess, but it does eliminate some of that. Yeah,
I agree. I dislike intentional draws for a lot of reasons, but there's one. This is probably a edge case, but whenever you're playing like in a tournament and you're doing okay and you reach that point where you could like make the top cut in the final round, I found myself more than once like on the outside looking in at like 9 or 10 or 11 and looking at the math and being like, oh man, I could bubble in. You're looking at all the top and everything, and then like the top 4 players all intentionally draw and just freeze out. That can't happen. And I get it and everybody watching who's a competitive player is going to be like, they earned that. And I get it. Yes, I suppose, but it just feels bad to like, have that going into that last round with hope and then to realize, yeah. Anyway, pointing out in the chat that we still can't intentionally draw on the top cut because then you're out.
My experience with that is the only thing that could happen is that a certain point some people make under table like agreements. Like if it's a top heavy prize pool, some people will be like, you know what, first player gets 1,000, second player gets 500, third player gets 200. How about we all just like share it, and I don't like that. So I've learned that a top cut tournament is detrimental. You don't want to give the first player way more than the others, or else that can happen. But that's against the rules, to be fair. So it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, sure. This Jack saying, and great quote here. People were playing the tournament, and not the game, and they're trying to avoid people doing that and playing the game instead. That was Rochelle, actually, the community manager for Ravensburger, who said that, and I completely agree. Gotta plug in the baby monitor.
Interesting.
Talk while I plug in the baby monitor. Okay. Yeah. So I do want to bring in one other person here for the next 30 minutes to help round this discussion. I'm interested in what he says. So I'd like to welcome first time I think on a live stream Robert Green of 20 Lore Pro. Rob, how you doing? Rob, you're muted. Oh no.
Hi there, everybody.
There you are. Hey, Rob.
Yep.
Hey.
Now, Rob, you like some of our other guests are a former competitive Magic player, and you've been running a lot of Lorcana tournaments. What is your thought on this 2-game, not best of 2-game Swiss? I kind of like that, or 2-game format.
Yeah, and so I kind of heard what y'all were discussing before, and I would say I probably tend to agree with it. I've been playing TCGs a long time, probably right about 30 years at this point, and there's some very interesting connotations that'll come from this. One thing being both players get a chance to go first, which of course some of y'all mentioned, that's potentially a big thing. Going first in TCGs always gives you a great advantage. So I think that will help smooth that out. I am a little interested to see what happens. I know, Thea, you mentioned sometimes you'll go to time, and that's definitely a thing. Perhaps with 2 games in 50 minutes, there might be a lot of extra time. And I think as we get through the first couple of events, we'll see, should they reduce it to 40 minutes? Is 50 minutes a good time? Sometimes events can boil down into a couple of games going extremely long and kind of dragging out the day for everybody as a whole. And so I think one thing, just perhaps we'll watch and see how the times go. Of course, running an event, you've ran a lot of events. I've ran a lot of events. Sometimes if every round goes to the time, it just makes the day much longer and people get to play less Lorcana than they otherwise would have. So one of my jobs as a tournament organizer, just keep the event moving, try to keep as many people playing Lorcana as possible. So I am interested to watch and see, how that dynamic comes about. Just because, like I said, just lots of years of playing 3 games, I'm very familiar with trying to play fast and finish games. But of course, Lorcana is very new to a lot of people. And so they, just coming into it, it's their first card game. We love to have those players, and not everybody has that experience from playing a lot of games, so they may not understand that kind of time is of the essence, sort of thing.
Mm.
Um,
I'm just saying something really funny. Like the beginner players, like in one of the very first locals I went to, we started time 50 minutes. I am very rushed because I'm playing Ruby Amethyst and it takes very long. And this guy comes and he starts packing his cards one by one. Like time starts and he's now distributing the cards so you can shuffle it properly. But he does this 1, 2, 3 of every single card in his deck. And I think, my gosh, this guy's slow playing me from the get-go. It takes like 10 to 15 minutes before we can even begin the game. And I just realized he's like, I'm sorry, this is my first game ever. And it was a horrible deck. And no offense, I freaking loved playing against him. It was a win. But I was like, there are people here who really need the time. It's their first game and they can't do 3 games in 50 minutes. It's really a lot for them.
Yeah, and I would say, I guess in TCGs in general, and I think some of maybe Katie or it was Becky that mentioned you played Flesh and Blood before, things like that. And even me as running in-person paper events in Texas, I have players show up and they just have cards, but no sleeves. And so everybody else is like, well, of course you sleeve your cards. And I say, well, they just learned how to play yesterday. And, they aren't familiar with sleeving their cards. That's a whole foreign concept to them. So we have people all the way from veteran TCG players to first timers, that literally while we were at the store 2 days ago, a husband and wife came in and bought starter decks and just had a chance to talk with them about it and say, hey, we play here. They play this shop every Sunday. And so they said they'll come back, and that's a great thing for the game.
I love hearing stories like that. It's really exciting. This is my first TCG, so it's scary to go into these kind of situations when you don't have a lot of experience. Even now, like I've been doing this 6 months, but like I'm still terrible at shuffling. Like I watch people play and they like the way they smoothly handle cards and stuff, and I'm just not there yet. So I am a little slower than like the veterans and stuff like that. And it is nice to hear like that there is kind of like a supportive environment kind of going around, at least in this community, it feels like.
I'm going to brag on Rob really quickly because like we had an opportunity to commentate a tournament that he organized a couple weeks ago, and you as a tournament organizer were so incredibly open to not only new players, like we had a 9-year-old playing in the tournament, we had a 14-year-old in the tournament, but also just our family. Like it was incredible. We walked back to the streaming booth and Rob was like, okay, we have this area and we thought you could put your pack. I thought you might have a pack and play with you. So you could put your pack and play here and you can set your daughter up here. And we have a hot water thing if you need anything for a bottle. And just like how Rob, you approached the tournament with such like a family mindedness was really special. For us as commentators, but also that you could tell that the families that were there together to compete in also what was a charity tournament, like really felt um, like we had this like family atmosphere and we were really embodying the point of the organization that we were trying to raise money for that day. So
Yeah.
kudos, Rob.
Thanks,
Way to
Aaron.
go, Rob.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah. I could talk just a little bit about that in case maybe some of the listeners at home or wherever they happen to be aren't quite familiar with that. But the event she's describing, it was, I guess, 2 weeks ago now. It's a large memorial event. It's called the Hunter Burton Memorial. It takes place in Texas every year, typically around the middle of March. And it's because a member of the gaming community took their own life, lost their life several years ago. And this has been the 10th memorial. And I used to play competitive cards with that person, Hunter Burton, kind of a good friend of mine. I played Magic with him in Texas years ago. And so to me, it just had a very personal connection with the event. And so the kind of host and organizers, one of them was Joe Klopschick, reached out to me and said, "Hey, Rob, I know you're kind of involved with Lorcana now. I don't know a thing about it. We're doing this in 3 weeks. Will you put together an entire Lorcana tournament for it?" So we said, sure. I don't know how we're going to pull this together in 3 weeks, but we're going to make it happen. We got on the phone with every store within basically 100 miles of us and said, "Hey, we're doing this event for Lorcana. It's for charity. If y'all can donate anything." Artists came out, playmat creators came out, stores basically, gave just dumping product on us saying, "Hey, this is all for a good cause." And so we had basically the first Lorcana championship there, and it was a great day. And so that's what kind of Aaron and Liam were out there. We had them on. Of course, they're here local in Texas, very close to me. So we basically showed up Thursday morning, and we had tables stacked up and chairs stacked up and a whole empty second floor to us and a whole slew of volunteers. And we just, for 3 days, took over that whole area they gave us and had a lot of great times. And there's good friendships made there, which is, kind of what the event is all about. And so very cool event and just glad to be a part of it.
Well, and even at that event, so getting back to the 2-game format. So even at that event, we did have several rounds go to time. And
it was a small event.
Yeah, it was. And so, we had the opportunity to do Lorecast a few days later, and Liam and I were actually talking about, how different that event might have been if we were doing the 2-game rounds at that point. And so it was interesting coming like off a tournament straight into Lorecast where this like new format got released. But yeah.
Have we heard a time for the rounds? Because I've seen 40 and 50.
It's all the rage in the chat right now.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I was actually
I don't recall that I'd seen a change, so I just assumed it was 50, but I think we're kind of waiting on them to release those official rules and whatnot.
I think 45 would be awesome because I feel like that, like cutting your round by 10 minutes, I think you're still going to run into like games going to time, especially when you're playing Ruby Amethyst. But having a 15-minute break between rounds, like I feel like will be more conducive for people to like maybe go grab a snack and not live off protein bars all day and
yeah.
take a moment before they start playing the next round. So
Nice.
I'm advocating for 45.
Rochelle pointing out they've tested it at 45, so not an answer there, but an indicator. I was checking the I'm showing right now the PPG Lorcana challenge thing, and I was digging through the rules, and I'm like, surely it says the round, but the round time is conspicuously absent, even though they have everything else here. So it kind of leads me to believe they don't know yet. And and they're still figuring it out, which is interesting.
Yeah, and that was my guess. We're waiting on the official rules that they mentioned when y'all were at the Lorecast coming out. So potentially that'll be in there as well.
I'm just excited for more tournaments to run on schedule.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is a tournament that's run on schedule.
And I guess probably just from a tournament organizer stance, the thing I dislike the most is when games cannot finish, like when players basically, time out through really no player's fault. But, like if you all mentioned Ruby Amethyst and things, some matches just take a long time. And there's a lot of, I do this and you counter with that. And then at the end, there's no definite winner, which of course, as a tournament organizer, I see that, neither player leaves satisfied in those conditions. So
yeah.
Yeah, and especially now, I mean, with this format, neither player benefits with a draw in game 2. Like, it's just bad for both players. So both players leave feeling a bit let down. So I don't know. One interesting question we got from Pavel: do you think with the 2-game format, players should announce their ink combinations before the match to make the 2 games more even? I thought this was an interesting question. What are all your thoughts?
I can kind of tackle this just to give everybody a preface from what you might call like a seasoned tournament player. Pavel makes a good point here. And because say for instance, in the current, what a lot of other TCGs do, 3-player games, I'm going to talk about a player going to an event, say by themselves, and another.
Oh, Katie is itching to talk about this.
No.
Go ahead.
Another group of players that you might say they're like on a team. And so potentially the team, they talk their friends and they say, oh, Thea's playing Ruby Amethyst and Katie's playing Emerald Steel. And if I'm on the team, then I know this information before game 1. But if you're the player there by yourself, you might have traveled for this event. You don't know these things that I do. So I have an unfair advantage of you only because not something in the game. Like, this is how, like, you all talked a little bit about, like, playing the tournament. This is somebody playing the tournament. I know what you're playing before, and you don't know what I'm playing, so I have an advantage. This has somewhat been mitigated in a 3-game system because you kind of have a game to figure it out, and then you can still go on to win 2 games. But in a 2-game system, I really kind of like Pavel's idea of announcing your colors because it does 2 things. It just gets rid of the scouting, what you would call it. Me having 20 friends doesn't give me an unfair advantage over you being there by yourself. And then I think it would just kind of solve that problem and might be a good direction for them to consider. But go ahead, Katie.
Oh, no, you said it perfectly. I come from Flesh and Blood, which has a lot of really big competitive teams, and they share information very efficiently. So far that they actually have a Google form for their team where they go in after the match and play. I played this person. They were on this deck. These were their key cards. And like, I would go so far as to say I would be pro open deck lists for that reason, just to mitigate the advantage of being on a team.
Are there any games where that's kind of de rigueur to say like what kind of deck you're playing?
I don't know.
Heroes beforehand?
In Flesh and Blood, you reveal heroes before the game, but I believe Star Wars Unlimited is open deck list. Maybe someone in the chat can tell us, but that's what I thought I heard.
Okay, but yeah, that makes sense though. Like announcing colors beforehand. I think I'm kind of into that, but I mean, I haven't tested. I don't know things, but I think that sounds kind of fair, honestly.
I mean, yeah, I know a lot of people pride themselves in building surprise factor decks with wild cards that you can't possibly foresee. So they would hate if you made it public open deck lists, even though I like the point you're making. I mean, when we look at like the cap of like the first event, which is like already 512 people, I think it would be much harder, unless you have massive teams, to accurately relay the information from like let's say you play 9 rounds. Maybe I'm not statistically correct, but I feel like it would be harder to share that information real quick in between rounds with your teammates. Still possible, I guess. I like the idea that when you go into the top cuts, it becomes public deck lists, because then I do feel you're at a distinct disadvantage if people didn't share the information with you and everybody knows what deck you are playing. I don't like that at all.
Or if you played that opponent in Swiss, I mean, like,
Yeah.
you then have an unfair advantage in that round.
Exactly. But I like colors being public. I think that's really cool. Yeah, I like it.
I have to say, like, so Becky, I don't know for you, but I feel like if I, as a new player, knew with like 5 minutes ahead of starting a round what colors I was going to be against, as a new player, it would at least give me like 5 minutes to like mentally prepare myself because I do feel like I do need a little bit of time every time I go into a round of any kind, like where I need to kind of like take a deep breath and like mentally prepare to do what I'm like to compete. And so having that little bit of extra information, I think would, as a new player, make me feel a lot more comfortable. And I don't necessarily need to know, is it going to be the discard deck, or is it going to be the aggro deck, or, the control deck? Like, but just having a ballpark idea of what I'm about to face.
I definitely feel that as well. It's honestly like when I'm playing and, I see the first color drop, I am just like waiting to see the second. So it's like, what do we have going on here? Like, what can I think about ahead of time? But I've heard like some criticisms about a lot of different new things that have been happening, with our 2-game Swiss, these things like that they are a little bit catering to people who aren't super competitive. And so I worry about coming off like being like, I'd like that. And I worry about that. Do I like it because I'm a new player and I want to be catered to? I don't know. But I think it's a fun idea. I don't know.
I have a half-baked thought that I'm going to try to bake while I'm talking.
Love it.
Because I saw,
very Michael Scott of you.
I know. Sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where it's going, but I hope to find it along the way. We saw, kind of to your point, Becky, like there were people in the Twitch chat during the stream saying things like, "Oh, the 2-game set is designed. Why are we catering to new players? Why are we changing a system that works in order to make it catering to new players?" And I think that's the wrong way to look about it, because I think there's this false we do this oftentimes. There's this false dichotomy between competitive players and casual players, or new players versus experienced players, all that. Like you can both make a system that competitive players can understand and that works to rank the best players at an event, which is what we're trying to get out of Swiss. As Rochelle, said during the stream, we're trying to understand who the best players are, that particular day. That's the goal of Swiss, is to rank the players. We can have a system that does that, but that also feels accessible to new people, right? It doesn't have to be one or the other. It doesn't have to be, this is easy for players to understand and also is good for competitive players. It can be both. And so I always find that interesting when people make that kind of observation or statement where they're like, why are we changing a system that works just so new players can access it? I'm like, because you can, and as long as it still works, and it works. I don't know.
Just win. I don't know. It's like when people go on these rants and they're like, like I'm so good. Like, please give me what works for me. I'm like, just 2-0 them. Like, do win. Like, if it's really that casual player that came in, it's like, okay, just win. Get your 3 points. I mean, if it's like, I'm gonna make extreme decks because it's a 2 like a 2 system instead of a 3, and that's how you're gonna win. Is some people are just gonna come in with extreme decks. Like, make an extreme deck, do it. That sounds awesome. Okay, just win.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I do think some people love to complain. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, there's relevant complaints, but then there's like having to complain about every single thing every single time. It's like, maybe Disney can be a little bit different than some of the other card games we know. Maybe that's what makes it special, is we have a little bit of a quirky new system, and maybe it works. Let's test it out. And I mean, according to the Lorecast, it appeared that there was some testing system that occurred already. So I mean, I'll take their word for it. If I'm sure they wouldn't do something to jeopardize their own game for no reason. I mean, seems like it was a calculated decision.
I think, another, like, creating a system for competitive players will continue to foster competitive players, but I feel like that's a little bit of a short-term solution, because if you don't have something that's accessible for new players, you can't then build the future competitive players, if that makes sense. Like, at some point, new people need to enter into the competitive scene to allow the game to continue for years and years and years to come. And so if it's just this insulated, like, catering to the way things have always been done, we might unintentionally make the game short-lived because we can't foster the new generation.
Gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. I agree. So kind of a bridge, because we started to kind of talk about the system, whatever. Lorcana Challenge. We're going to bring in George from PPG in here in a moment and get to ask him some questions and hear his thoughts. But we talked about the 2-game format. That's just part of what was announced for Lorcana Challenge. I know. I have to say, Thea, I know when I mentioned we were going to talk about Lorcana Challenge, you were like, "Yes, I'm all diving into the competitive scene." So,
yes,
yeah. What do you all think about Lorcana Challenge and its setup?
So excited.
Yeah.
So excited. I'm just so excited. I can't say it enough. I want to play at all the events. Obviously, that's not necessarily going to happen. But yeah, I'm just so glad there's a competitive scene finally announced. Yeah, I mean,
and I would say, I think just because they kind of released Lorcana in the big picture at Gen Con last year, myself and a lot of players thought they were going to wait to Gen Con all the way in August before we really got official organized play. So to see it coming basically the end of May is ahead of schedule. And so just glad to see it.
Yeah. So Thea, you say you're so excited. What is it about the competitive or Lorcana Challenge that are you excited about, like the locations or the prizing or just the fact that it exists?
I can't describe it. This is my first TCG as well. I've always been playing CCGs, which is online card games mostly. So you don't have that in-person interaction. So that's what hooked me when I went to my first local event. Was I just picture 512 people from all over coming there. All these people I interact with online are going to be there in person. It's going to be so much fun meeting them, talking to them. And then, the actual event, I picture like 512 people sitting there playing, and we start. You get cool extra card stuff. I only figured that kind of out along the way. I didn't care about that. I just wanted to play. And I think also knowing that it's not just the best of the best going. You have like a split. Like, we'll see how many people go to certain regions. But I feel like even me, maybe, as coming from, I don't know if more casual is the correct way to put it. I haven't grinded as much as some of the other players up until this point. I will, but I feel like I stand a chance to maybe make it from 512 a little bit more up. Like, trying to make top 64 is suddenly like, is that something I can do? Is that possible? Like, we have more new players coming in, and I'm like, yeah, this is a cool challenge. I think it will be fun, and we're gonna have vendors. It's gonna be like a whole convention for me. So it's like a party, 3 days long. It's going to be so fun. Yeah, and I'm curious to see what the production's going to look like. How is it going to be streamed? How is it going to be like published, like the world? I think we're going to have so much more eyes on the game. I think it's finally going to become a really, really big game. It's already competing for One Piece, like 4th spot, I think, card game. I think it can easily be far higher than that. So I hope that this like starts off the marketing and being like, okay, we're open, guys. Like, look at us, whole world. This card game exists, and yeah, I think it's gonna be super awesome.
Oh my gosh, your energy is so infectious. Like I'm very excited about it as well. I don't know if I can go to any. I don't think I'll be able to compete, but just being able to like be in the atmosphere, feel the vibes, like see what's gonna go on, like it's gonna be so cool. And of course the prizing is completely awesome, but who knows if I will ever touch any of that.
There's a participation one.
Yeah.
No, I fancy myself a competitive player, but like I'm not motivated by cash tournaments. Like I have a job. I don't need to compete for a cash prize. Like, but if you tell me I'm competing for a pretty promo, I'm there. So I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I would say just for me, y'all are kind of aware since basically COVID and everything, a lot of our lives kind of turned online. And so, Lorcana came about. I was extremely excited for it and had the Discord group, but, sometimes you can feel a little disjointed. I see your name, but really, when we had PPG Miami last fall, I got to go out there with Sir Ashton and Jaylong, and I got to meet Sarek and Ghosty and just other people in the Discord that came up to me and said, "Hey, I've been chatting with you for months, and I get to see a face, and we can go out to dinner." And for me, like that's what I like about the event. Okay, like at top 16, like that's not a big deal. I remember the people I meet there, and then I can come home and I say, "Hey, I know who you are now," and that's for me the best part of these challenges is, all these players saying, "Hey, when is the meetup? Can we all rent a house together?" And this is the memories that you make and remember for a lifetime.
Yeah.
We have the best people on this show. I agree. I mean, yeah. That's why we do what we do. That's why all of us do what we do, right? Because in-person gaming, like, there's something amazing about it. Especially, it's not just COVID, but everything's turning digital nowadays. And the idea that you're going to sit down across the table from a friend or even a stranger, and engage in this social activity. There's something really special about it. So, yeah, I don't know. But Lorcana challenge. Sorry, just for those not aware, I'll get the dates up here. These are the dates of Lorcana. I'm sure everybody's tracking, but here you go. Now I'm super excited, and I am. People were joking in the chat. We're waiting for the last 2 minutes to bring PPG on, George Machado. We're not. We're actually going to go right up until This Week in Ink. We're going to take the show an extra 30 minutes this week because we just had so much to talk about. So you're all welcome for the bonus content now that I've into staying here. But I'm excited to bring in George Machado from PPG as the owner. George, welcome.
Hey, George.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
Welcome.
Hey.
I do want to say right up front, I am well aware, and we should let everybody know in the chat because people are going to have questions. There's a lot that I know. I'm sure, George, you're working on with Ravensburger and the venue, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So there's probably questions people have, that we're not going to be able to answer because there's talks and coordination and things going on. So if you say, "Hey, I can't answer that," we completely understand. But
of course,
yeah, we're excited to have you here. I did want to just ask a really broad question because I'm familiar with PPG. A lot of us are. We've been to PPG events, or we've seen you run stuff or seen your streams. But for those that aren't,
Rochelle very creepily in the
not creepily. Yeah. So you're on. For those who aren't familiar with PPG and maybe their first exposure was seeing, hey, PPG is running these Lorcana events. What is PPG? Why did you start the company? And what's your approach to gaming? Kind of introduce yourself to the
oh man, I got to consolidate a lot of time here.
Oh man.
So PPG, I started pretty much as a passion thing out of while doing college, actually. This was about 10 years ago. We officially founded PPG, but I was doing PPG for almost over 20 years, and I'm 33, 34 right now. So I've been doing this as a kid, kind of just going to local competitions, doing the Toys R Us leagues. I don't know if anybody remembers those back in the day, doing the Pokemon, the Yu-Gi-Oh, grinding those out, making my mom take me to those events and kind of like get those little, participation or award trophies. And I was a very competitive kid. I would play a lot of sports and do all this stuff. So as I grew, I was like, man, this is really expensive. And a lot of our friend groups were also very competitive. And I was like, back then, they didn't really sell cards, right? Like stores didn't really sell cards. They sold like the packs. So they always made you essentially randomly, RNG machine, whatever, gotcha machine to kind of get what you needed. So we were such avid fans and competitors that we were like, we need to have all the best cards to win, right? So we would go to every single local and kind of like make sure that our team and our guys would have everything that they needed. So that kind of transpired into like a passion project, like a side business while I was, studying and go to school and stuff like that. So, eventually once I graduated from college, I was able to, start the business right out the get-go. And, fast forward to now, it's been 10 years that we've been officially running as a company. And we've also taken up event management. I think 4 years in, we started with Bandai and starting with Konami as well for Yu-Gi-Oh! Then we started a partnership with Wizards of the Coast for Transformers. And then we've partnered with a bunch of different, companies to kind of propel their organized play. And, as a company that we've always kind of been founded from players, I thought it's always been, important to make sure that we put the customer experience first. And it's always been something that's always on the forefront of our mind because we know what we would like to see from events. We competed in all these events ourselves. We compete in other events, and we always take something from those events. We take something positive, something negative. Same from our events. We love the criticism. We adapt to it. So we're kind of, I guess you can call it the new age TO, where we're just there and we understand how these events are supposed to be ran, and we're always looking to improve and, take the feedback and actually do something with it, right? So I've been super blessed and lucky to be able to work with a partner like Ravensburger. The team has been super receptive and has valued a lot of what we've, had to input. So I'm really glad to see that we've been able to kind of grow this hype, and it's honestly surprised all of us. So super excited to kind of be able to make this series a success, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, it seems the demand seems through the roof. I mean, how long was it until tickets sold out for Atlanta?
I think it was like 20 seconds. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
I was on the plane refreshing my Southwest Wi-Fi, and
We got Wi-Fi purely for that reason.
yeah.
And then just the whole flight refreshing.
Southwest is Wi-Fi, like it's, yeah, it sort of works. No, that's awesome. So can you just elaborate on one thing real quick? Anytime you describe PPG to me, and even getting ready for the show, send some notes, and you always put in your description that you're player driven. What do you mean by that?
I mean, we started as players, right? Even myself, as an owner and doing everything, a content creator, a financial analyst, all this stuff. I myself play these games, right? I enjoy them. I love them. I don't really carry or support a game that I'm not completely sold on, as far as like the way that the company operates, the way the mechanics are, the way the lore is, right? Like all these things are a big driving factor to me. I'm not just a store that will just chill out for whatever game. I really need to see that the fundamentals are essentially solid. So because of that, when we take on new titles, we're very passionate in growing a community. Sometimes that local community isn't there, but regardless, we'll always put a lot of effort into the game, above average amount of effort, not to the point where we're like, look, we're just going to buy and sell it because it's profitable. It's more like, do we believe in the long-term longevity? And we just have so many like dedicated and professional players that honestly, a lot of the local players are either national champions, they're world champions, they're Grand Prix champions, they're, Shonen Jump champions or YCS champions. I can name you a winner of almost every single game that attends PPG, and it's just the culture. It's unique, and honestly, obviously very lucky for us to be surrounded by so many talented players from literally every single background, that it puts us in a unique scenario where not only are we competitive, but we understand the customer service, the casualness. Like we understand that these are all things that you need for a game and an environment to thrive. But honestly, that's just the roots of what we came from. So we always put that player experience first, and we've done that since day one. So, and thankfully, everybody's been very receptive to it. I'm sure anybody in chat that's attended a PPG event can kind of tell you, we've been running these for a long time, and we have a very high retention rate when it comes back to getting people back into games or getting people back into trading card games. People that played Yu-Gi-Oh! 10 or whatever years ago, they see us supporting a game like Lorcana or whatever it is, they immediately want to hop back in because they know that that experience is going to be solid. Whether that game is something that's forever for them is something else, but it definitely does get additional eyes and players onto games when they know that we are also somebody that's buying into something like a new card game, which is definitely risky nowadays.
Yeah, I just have to say kudos on your Twitter presence, because every concern somebody raises at you guys on Twitter, you just have like the perfect response. I'm like, they got this. I don't have to worry about anything. So
yeah, I know everybody's kind of done their fair share with making sure that we had our ear to the ground on this. And honestly, you don't see that a lot from companies or really just tournament organizers in general. I mean, I've attended a ton of Konami events, a bunch of Pokemon events, a bunch of Magic events. I can't tell you the last time somebody would actually reply to me directly as far as concerns go. So we do as much as we can, honestly, and hopefully that transitions into something like our execution of the show. That's what we're really confident in, and that's what we're really excited to really tackle, to hopefully make sure that everybody knows that they're in good hands and that we're excited and passionate to do it. We're not just doing a job, we're just living our life. It really that is what it is.
Yeah, and George, I'd say, just as a player, like nobody was really doing anything with Lorcana before you all did PPG Miami last fall. And so like everybody, like that was the hype event of last fall, because like over 200 some odd players, we came out to Miami, hang out with y'all on the coast there, and it was a great event y'all did. And just, I mean, it was awesome for me because it was the first basically huge chance time to, hey, I get to play Lorcana with over 200 people in the same room. And what you did there was like totally a slam dunk, and nobody else was doing that at the time.
I played in that one. That's what hooked me. It was amazing.
I'm glad to hear that, actually. I love to make sure that, and it was so many people's first event. And when they have that first experience, I love getting that satisfaction of, oh man, they're hooked. Oh man, they're sold. Like we've gained a long-term relationship with that player, and they'll follow us. People will follow us across the US just because, oh man, these guys are hosting something. Doesn't matter how big or small, how big the stakes are. I know the stakes change from show to show because everything has its own format, but it's just great to just have people come out and just be like, shake my hand and be like, man, I just want to say, thank you for everything. And honestly, that's just what fuels me to be better and continue to make sure when there are concerns or when there are things that, could be done better, whatever the case is, I'm always at the forefront of making sure that I fight that fight. Because sometimes that communication between, I've worked with companies where, I have to be that intermediary between the players and the company making the executive decisions. And if my concerns aren't necessarily heard, I can't do much else. But I'm at least glad that I'm able to bring those concerns and have that foresight and that problem solving to just be like, hey, here's not just a problem, but here's how I can solve it for you. And I think being able to have that insight is what allows us to kind of work in the background and make sure that everyone's kind of taken care of. Not only the company that's, putting on the title, but also the players that want to continue to have a reason to play the game. So it's phenomenal, really.
I do have, if anybody has any questions like for George or the audience, we're in our last 15 minutes or so feel free to ask. But I had there's a two-part question here. There's two people that ask questions and they go kind of nicely together. And I thought they were fun. So this first question, George, this question is not for you. The next question's for you. But for everybody else, what side events, if any, would you all like to see at these challenges for spectators, people who drop? Is there a dream, prize wall? What would you like to see for side events, and what would you like to see for fun casual prizing?
I think I might take a stab at it. Just and this is something, George, you're already doing, but the Sunday team event you ran in Miami, you know, a lot of people, like I talked about before, we kind of travel to these events together, you know, and you kind of have your friends and, hey, let's go play Lorcana. And so for you to just have a team event with great rules, you know, basically all 6 inks are going to be represented on the team. And it's just, you know, like I talked before, you kind of, this is the way you build memories. I got to play with my 2 friends and, hey, we played this, that, and the other. And, you know, we get to, hey, maybe we beat some people, maybe we made some more friends. But like, that's the memories you make is like, for me, team events are the home runs. I hope you'll keep doing those when you can.
For sure. Those are super fun.
Yeah, I have to agree with that because if we're traveling to these events, like getting to do something with your like friends would be so awesome. So like a team sealed would be great.
Team sealed, team sealed.
I kind of love the one you did where there was an event in Miami where you had troves and you're like, show up with 8 people and pay a couple bucks and we'll run a trove event. Just like find people and just show up and you do a quick like 3-round Swiss thing for a trove. And I was like, that's great. Just, you know, no start time. You just show up on your schedule and we'll do a thing. And I thought that was great. I don't know.
Yeah, I love the fill-in fires.
Karaoke challenge. I don't know. Thea, any ideas?
I mean, I remember at that same event when I dropped out at the end of the first day, I had people coming back to me and they were like, we're trying to put together a 3-person team for this Sunday event. Like, you know, like that's how I started making more friends. It's like, yeah, like, do you want to participate? Do you want to do this or that? I was going downstairs to go meet the illustrators on the Sunday. So I spent a lot of time talking with them instead. It got some really cool experience. But I was like, I'm sorry, guys, well, give me your Discord. Maybe we can like play on a line, like find each other, meet up again at events and stuff like that. And we actually did. I met some of those same people at the Miami event yesterday. Who was it? The time flies. I'm very jet lagged. Today's Sunday. Yesterday was the Miami event. Florida University, International University. PPG was in charge of that one. Yeah, I met some of them again, and I didn't have enough cards, and one of them quickly came and gave me like 4 fishbone quills, and I was like, thank you so much. And I went to the PPG store as well. I got a little tour. Yeah, it was really cool.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
Yeah, you weren't on the. Oh no, the production team couldn't fly out because the weather was atrocious.
Yeah,
that's what happened. I was gonna cast
myself,
that one. Yeah, so I played instead. It was really cool. But again, Miami. I keep meeting the same people through PPG. It's really cool. So yeah, hopefully I see you guys again at like the convention this year in October or something. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe the same people come. Yeah. PPG is just everywhere this year. I mean, I think everybody's going to see a lot of you guys all over America.
Oh, man. I'm out of town almost every weekend, honestly. My wife hates it, but I mean, we got to do what we got to do, you know? I'm super excited to start traveling for some Soul Lorcana challenges. That's going to be really fun. She should be tagging along for this. So.
Yeah, bring her with.
Yeah. So, George, your question is... For George, what kind of side events will we see at the first challenge?
Can't talk about it, but I can tell you.
That's okay.
I can definitely tell you that I am an avid side event enthusiast. I am somebody that I understand the pains of going O2 in an event and just being out of any type of prizing. And it happens to the best of us, really. There's nothing to be ashamed about. But I do hate knowing that the experience ends there. I think there's just so many more relationships, experiences, prizes to win that can be utilized throughout the day. So we're known as one of the TOs that typically push these as much as possible to make sure that we have a lively and fun room, and we're just not at half capacity by round 3 because everybody's out of the runnings. So I can tell you that some of the side events that you've played in before at a PBG will most likely be making an appearance, along with some brand new side events that may or may not have been suggested on this stream or in comments. But we're listening. We're open. We've been reading every single comment. We've been following the conversation all over the place. So if you write it into existence, so to say, if you ink it into existence, right? Then there's a possibility that'll be there, because I love variety, and I love the ability for people to, execute their own interpretation of Lorcana, not just your traditional 1v1. Team is one of my favorite things, because sometimes I just can't think that much myself. So I'm able to ask my teammate, hey, what should I do in this scenario? And that makes me a lot less stressed when I play, because I can't possibly retain all that information when I have so many more important things on my plate. But yeah, I can assure you that there will be a beautiful slate of side events once we get those approved and, supported, hopefully in some type of way, by the Ravensburger team. But I'm sure that they'll be very game for whatever we have to bring to the table, whether it's officially supported or if it's just something that's with the sealed product, and you don't get any promos, but you still get value, and that's what we're about, value. So
Man, now I want to go to Atlanta even more. I don't know. I know.
Are prize walls a thing that you would consider? Do you ever do those?
We have done prize walls. Yeah, we don't do them at every event. It typically depends. I would love to have some Lorcana hats and Lorcana, merch, official merch. Definitely, if that's something that is talked about and agreed by the team, and we have the proper lead times and we have the proper inventory, that's obviously something that we would love to do. We've done a point system before where people just, instead of getting a certain prize, you get these prize tickets, and you can use these prize tickets for a variety of different things. So if you don't want booster packs because you're up to your head in booster packs and you've opened so many and your luck is just terrible, why don't you just buy what you really like, right? A hat, a t-shirt, a plushie. There's just so many cool things. Pins, official pins, maybe an exclusive pin. Who knows? But these are all things that once we get to that caveat of the conversation, which there's obviously much, I don't want to say more priority things, but like obviously there's a conversation about a lot of different things that we've been having for the last 6 months, and there's some that we've kind of waited for or kind of put to the back burner because they're not necessarily at the top of the priority list. But these are things that 100% we would love to do. I'm an avid fan of prize walls because, like I said, you just get what you want. If you don't need a trove, you don't need a trove. If you don't need a booster pack, you don't need a booster pack, So, but yeah, I would love to do prize walls. I love prize walls. And then people start like trading tickets amongst themselves. It's like, I'll give you my whole collection for these 20, like it becomes cool, right? Because then you have like this pseudo marketplace going, and people are just really, I've been to a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh events, and anybody that's done Yu-Gi-Oh events, they know those prize walls, when they do giant cards on those prize walls, people pay $5,000, $10,000 for them. It's crazy. So I definitely, and that's the benefit of us like attending so many events. We see what people do. We see what people, really like and what's really well received, and we try to imitate those things. So if you've seen it in action and be successful, you could probably think that we're going to be fighting for it. Whether it gets approved or not, not sure. Not at that conversation yet, but uncut sheets, yeah. I mean, that's it. That's one of them, right?
Uncut sheets.
Yeah.
One of my best memories is grinding the heck out of a Star City event with about 4 friends, and we grinded all weekend, and we went home with an uncut sheet. We had to pool tickets and tickets and tickets.
Yep.
It was.
We got one hanging
time
in this room, actually, an uncut sheet of Magic cards.
Yep.
Funny enough.
I will say, I just want to offer, though, something you said, George, about priorities. Like, I do think, I don't want anybody watching like to get their hopes up too much. I do think, that between you and Ravensburger and even, us diehard fans watching, like we all understand that the number one priority is running a really good tournament for the players that sign up, and then, the side events and the prize balls and everything else follow. And that between you and Ravensburger and everybody involved, like, you do have that priority, that stack of priorities, and you're working your way from top to bottom. And this is the first one coming up. And I'm sure, we'll all learn a lot in the first one, and they'll just get better as we go. So, I am excited. I'm hopeful. I'm managing my expectations, but I completely understand that this is the first one, and, that they're just going to get better over time.
I'll be fighting the good fight.
Any other questions before we kind of go around the horn and sign off?
Yeah, you got into Atlanta, right?
Yes.
Good for you.
It was I was harrowing. I almost forgot because it was literally a day. Again, I came from Scotland, landed in Miami, went to the event, found out the production crew. It was going to be my first in-person cast. So I was really excited to try. 'Cause PPG asked for, because it's Miami and I like Miami. But anyway, I got there and the weather, there was like tornado warnings and stuff, so people couldn't even make it. So I ended up playing in the event. But so the next morning, I'm dead inside. I'm sitting eating breakfast, and I see a Twitter post where people are like 30 more minutes, and I'm like, oh, I almost forgot. So I eat my breakfast, and the refresh page comes on, and I start refreshing. It asks for my PayPal details. Like I misspell my password twice. I'm like, come on. And I get the ticket 2 minutes in. I try to get a second one. I'm like, okay, let's get one for my friend, my boyfriend, whoever, and it says waitlist. I'm like, no way. It's probably picking up that I wanted a second one, right? And I go on Twitter and it's like, sold out. I was like, I thought it was going to sell out within 8 to 10 minutes. That was my bet. But that's crazy. It's a good sign of the health of the game. That's what makes me so excited, actually. I mean, we'll see what happens with the next events, the caps, all that. I mean, obviously a lot still needs to happen, but like, that's a good sign. 512 tickets sold like this, right? Like, that's awesome. So I'm very grateful I got a ticket. I'm definitely keeping my tickets. And yeah, I mean, hopefully I see a lot of peeps there, like even waitlisted peeps. I've seen there are people who have actually gotten through the waitlist already. Like people are already unregistering or whatever. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And having more events on the sidelines, again, I feel like this is more of a fan event built around the competitive circuit. So I think seeing people like you, the Illumineers, like it would be sad if you don't come. Like I'm kind of expecting to see you guys there. Just that's why I'm there. You know, the competition's cool, but I mean, I kind of hoped all the cool people would come as well, and there will be so many extra events that you can just have like a whole day of fun. You know, it's kind of what I'm envisioning. Maybe I'm an optimist. I don't know. But I think it's gonna be fun.
I think it's gonna be fun. I hope I can go. We'll see. A lot of travel this year, but gosh, it should be super exciting. And I love what you said too. It's super good for the game, right? Like to see to that level of demand and to see it sell out like that. Imagine what we'd be talking about right now if they didn't sell. If it took like a whole day for 500 tickets to sell, we'd be like,
yes, like 350 tickets. Like that would be horrible. Yeah, so I'm more than happy to see that. Like again, I don't have experience with physical card games, only online, so there's never really a cap to those. So I have no idea what it's supposed to look like. I'm pretty sure if it was more than 1,000, it would have sold out within 10 minutes. Still, that's the thing, right?
yeah.
So I don't know, where do you cap it? I don't know. I don't have the expertise to comment on that.
Yeah. Well, I know the people with expertise are working on it.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
sure
true.
that's all you'll say, George. But I know you all are working at it. I know everybody involved has the best interests of the community and the game at heart, and I think that's I think that's great. So with that, we do need to wrap this up so folks can go over to get over to This Week in Ink. If they'd like. Hey, great audience this evening. I am going to go around the horn and let everybody say how people can follow you. I will say, if you're watching tonight and this is your first time here or second time here or third time here, a lot of people watching on Twitter, go ahead and migrate over to the YouTube channel and hit subscribe. We are here every Monday night. We do videos on the side, and we'd enjoy having you here every week. But so with that, George, we'll start with you. How can people follow, PPG and what you all are doing in that amazing Twitter account of yours?
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely, we have a Twitter, we have an Instagram, we have all those fabulous pieces of social media. You should be able to do a quick little search on that. We have a YouTube channel also. Actually, have a pretty decent amount of subscribers, 40,000. We haven't used it in a while, but we're actually in the process of redesigning our entire production studio in store. So once we get that all produced, we're actually looking to go a lot harder in content. I know that there was a few questions in chat about like the stream and things like that. We don't know exactly, but if you are interested, reach out. I don't ultimately think we'll have the final call, but we'll see exactly what it goes. How production and stream goes. But we are a big fan with production and stream, so we will make sure that it would be produced live stream for everyone to watch, because Honestly, I think that's a huge caveat, especially with a historical tournament like the first event. So, if you want to, I know that there's a lot of people asking about waitlist, stuff like that. Definitely sign up to the waitlist. I want to encourage people on pbgeventmanagement.com. There's a sign up for waiting. There's a mailing list that you could subscribe to, which is ideal because then you'll get updated with any upcoming Lorcana events. 2, there's a wait list anytime an event sells out, and we suggest players to sign up for that wait list so that we can provide those analytics, forward those analytics, and we can actually have some actual data to go off of so that we can gauge, what the potential routes that we have are when we go forward, with presenting solutions. So that always helps. So by doing those things, you'll kind of keep yourself in the loop and make sure that we can account for your desire, because I know that there's a lot of people that would love to desire to play in all these events, and we would love to host all of you. But I think the best way to be able to host that is by giving that feedback in that way, so that we can forward those hard numbers, and we can hopefully get to something that's makes us all happy and lets us all participate in this magical experience. So.
I appreciate it, George. Thanks for being here. I will note for yes, I see all the questions about the judge program in the chat. I know that's coming. There's some information coming out about that. I'm sure in the near future. So I see your questions, and that'll be something that'll be addressed, I'm sure, shortly. So apologize we didn't ask it live. Hey, Rob, thanks for joining us as well. I have to say, your Discord server is great. I have the link down in the show notes, so if people want to connect with Rob, they can head over there. But how else can people follow what you're doing, or do you have any closing thoughts?
Probably just thanks you for the Illumineers for being here, all your great cast you had on here with us. I appreciate all of y'all. It was a great time. Like I said, I'm just trying to help out the community, just out here running projects, trying to get every store out here in 100 miles of me. Like I said, just I'm going out to them, I'm streaming their events, I'm judging them, I'm just trying to build the Lorcana community. And so just like you said, everybody has the best intentions for the game. So thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Also, go ahead and you can feel free to stay away from Austin during the set championship weekends. I would appreciate that. Yeah, thanks so much. So I know we tried to make this happen, for a while now, so I can't tell you how excited we are to have you on the show. It's been a privilege. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, again, thank you so much for inviting me after I couldn't make it when I was in Scotland and my time zones were all wanky. I really appreciate it. I really love what you guys are doing for the community. When I saw you on Lorecast, it was incredibly wholesome, and I think everybody had the same sentiments. So yeah, thanks again for inviting me. And I really look forward to seeing you guys at in-person events. Truly, there's a bunch, so I promise not to take the ticket every time in the first 2 minutes. I'll give some people a head start, like wait 3 minutes and then we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was awesome to hop on board. So thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thanks so much. And just win Atlanta, and then you won't need to play in any of the others. I mean,
that's my plan. How did you know?
Knock it out early. I'd ask what you're playing, but that would give away the secrets.
Toxicity. Red purple is my favorite. Yeah.
The deck everybody loves to love or loves to hate. Hey, Katie, any closing thoughts?
No, thank you so much for having us. This was great.
Yeah, I appreciate. And Becky?
Yeah, I mean, we love you, Liam. We love everything you guys do. Always, always, always such a pleasure being here. It was so nice meeting the rest of you. Really, really, really wonderful. And we are on all your major podcasting platforms at Live Laugh Lorcana. We're on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. So.
Yeah, and you should follow. I'm going to plug your Discord server one more time. I did it when we started, but really wholesome place to hang out. Two of my favorite places are, your Discord server and the 20 Lore Pro Discord server. We also have a Discord server, but your alls are more fun. So definitely check that out. And we'll put the link to the Discord server in our show notes as well. So you all should head over there. But no, I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for hanging out, watching. Thank guests for being here. Until next week, I'm going to do the new sign off catchphrase. Pause.